Welcome back to the Seaboard Central, everyone, and another episode in the Realistic Ops series. In today's video, we're going to go over industry work orders, and I'm going to show you how I created one for my Seaboard Central Railroad based off an actual prototype industry work order. And what an industry work order is the actual instructions given to each train crew for their route on which cars to pull from which industries and what cars they're requesting to be placed. So, if this sounds interesting to you, keep watching. And if you enjoy the video, as always, I appreciate a thumbs up. So without further ado, let's get started. So here's a copy of an actual prototype industry work order, and this is for Norfolk Southern, what their industry work orders look like. And you can see on the industry work order, this is the station number and the location. This is for trains that are assigned out of Griffin, Georgia. They have some locals that are assigned there. Here's the route, G05. That's the train number, G05. There's a line for the conductor to put their name. Also, you can put what engines they used. You also see here, there's a little note for the conductor, telling them to look out for things like this where you don't want to pull a gondola with loose scrap metal hanging all off the sides of the cars. And then you come down here and you start seeing the industries. And here's the classification code for the industry. This one is G13, which is Norcom and Griffin. And they just have some special instructions for cars that are arriving there, especially if you get 60-foot box cars versus 50-foot box cars. They have a special instruction in here about the doors, how to spot them up. So that's helpful for conductors, especially extra board conductors coming to the job that may not be as familiar with the job as the regular bid-in conductor. And here's one for international paper. You can see that they actually work this industry. And here is a car that needed to be pulled, an empty that needed to be pulled, along with a group of other empties. And you can see they're pulling a Macon class code. And then here is the instructions for the cars that need to be placed. And it shows where those particular cars are located in the yard. They were in South Yard track number 2. And they need to go over to G15. And over on this side, it shows the date and the time that the conductor spotted the cars and pulled the cars. So on the Seaboard Central, this is what I came up with for an industry work order. And I want to keep things very simple. And I want the industry work order to be on one sheet of paper for my crews. So I don't want to overload them with too much work. So for each train number, and you can see this is for route Y81. This is one of the yard jobs. You'll see that it has some industries that it's assigned. It also has that note about not pulling gondolas with loads exceeding the sides and end of a car, and also don't pull box cars unless the doors are closed and secured. Just something simple like that. There's a line for the conductor's name and the engines that they used. And then you see here is the classification code again for the particular industry, the name of the industry, and the city that it's located in. And you can see here, I've got for SD's rail car service, I've got one car that needs to be pulled. And it shows the classification is going to the CSX. And I got another car that needs to be placed. And there's the track that it's currently located in. And it's going to A19. Also, we have a A19, which is the shop foreman in Gadsden. I've got a tank car that needs to be pulled off the sand track. And this car has actually been sold, so it's going over to SD's rail car service to actually get re-stenciled. And then you have the track supervisor, which is A20. They're requesting a gondola of rail from the GY09 to be placed on a GY12 track so they can drive up beside it and unload the car. And then I have some special instructions for the yard jobs. Here's the static yard list, talking about each track in the yard, how many cars they'll average 50 or 60-foot car will hold, and also here's the blocks for each track. That just helps the crews figure out where to put the cars. So when a local conductor comes on duty, one of the first things they do is look at their work order. And so they'll print a copy of this off and see what cars they're going to be needing for today. And the next thing they'll need to do is print off the track inventory list to find those cars. So here is a copy of the current track inventory at Gadsden Yard. And you can see on my industry work order, I need a CSX car out of GY09. And I'm also looking for this Southern Gondola out of GY09. So I can go ahead and I can look on the actual work order, and you can see here's track G09, and there's that Southern Gon, actually line number 1. So I know it's on the north end of the track. And here is the CSX car that I'm looking for. So one of the first things we want to do is switch these two cars out of track 9 so that we can spot them up. So let's have a little fun and go ahead and take care of this little mini operating session. And again, we'll use our faithful 153 switcher to make these moves. First thing we're going to do is make our way over to track number 9. I think what we'll do is we'll just put those two cars over in track 10 for the time being, and then shove everything else we don't need back into track 9. All right, let's see if we got it and stretch it out. Yep. Here we go, all the way out. Clear the switch. If you haven't tried something like this, I highly recommend it. It is so much fun to be able to actually make your model railroad feel like it has a purpose. And it's actually doing some kind of work. That ought to be good. All right, let's pull ahead. Put two cars back in there. These cars that we don't need are actually what we railroaders call dead cars. It's just stuff that's just not needed at this time. We'll leave it in the track. Sometimes we'll classify the track and put the cars in other tracks if it makes more sense. But for right now, we'll leave these two over here. Now we're coming back out with this CSX car that's been requested. It's going to get its total makeover. You look at it now because it's not going to look this way in the next video. As I mentioned before about this rail car service, it's a great way for me to upgrade cars that are recently purchased fresh and clean out of the box and actually make them look used, and in some cases abused. All right, back to track 9 with the rest of this stuff. There are 4 more cars that are going to get upgraded very soon, but not today. Now stretch it out. Yep, we got them. Shove them in the clear. We know we should clear because we took 2 out of the track. So we're at -2. That'll do. All right, back to track 10 with our spot cars. All right, the first move we're going to make is to get rid of that gun and shove it into track number 12. So we'll come all the way out. And the track supervisor wants us to couple it up to the 2 cars that are there, all the way on the north end. Here we go. Shove on them. Good for at least 15. Eventually, I'm going to have its own separate track for the track supervisor, and I'm actually working on something now. Make it a little more interesting. I'll have an interesting scene. So keep an eye out for that one. But for right now, we'll just temporarily use the north end of track 12 for the track supervisor. Good. So before we can make these next few moves, we're going to have to run around it. So we'll go ahead and pull the car in the engine thoroughfare track and cut it off, and then run around it and work these other 2 locations. And try to cut it off to where it'll make it easy to couple back up to it when I come in here. It's probably good enough. Got this track temporarily put in while I'm working on the next section, but it does allow me to make this run around move. Operations are so much more fun and relaxing when you have a great running engine. This is an Atlas MP15. It's got a Lokesound V5 decoder with a current keeper. All done by my friend Jason with Georgia Bigfoot Trains, and it sure does run good. Another thing that makes it fun is using the proto throttle. And I got it set up to maximum deceleration so I can take advantage of the brake. So you see how that engine's just coasting there. And I can ease the brake on to slow it down. Just like that. So according to our work order, the first thing we need to do is pull a BNSF 880-128. And there it is. So we'll have to take it out of the track, set it out, and then respot everything else. So we'll go ahead and get ourselves lined in and make the coupling. Perfect. All right, we're going to pull the track down and cut one off. We'll set that tank car out on the lead and then respot the sand. That'll work. Just setting this car out in the clear. That's good enough. Y81 is mostly the yard switcher, but it does take care of the shop area. That's one of its duties. Alright, we've coupled back up in the track and we're going to respot this sand car. It's not ready to be pulled yet. That'll work. Now what we're going to do is come back out, grab hold of the tank car that we just set out, and we'll go over and work SD's rail car service. Now, if you recall from last week's video, we placed this car here, and it was an L&N car, fresh, clean, out of the box. Well, now it's been re-stenciled to a CSX car and completely upgraded and weathered. If you recall, I talked about it being too light, so this had weight added to it. It's got Code 88 wheels from Tangent on it and KD 158 couplers. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the engine thoroughfare so that we can run around it. You can see the difference between it and that CSX car. What a huge difference. All right, back to SD's. Now what we need to do is run around this car, stick it in the yard. You can see how long this is actually taking just to make these few simple little moves. All right, according to our static yard list, we need to put CSX traffic in track number 6. So we'll shove this car off in 6. And that'll be it for this one. So to wrap this video up, we filled out the industry work order for this route. Conductor's name, the engine we used, and here we can show we filled this out. The CSX car was pulled from A18. We moved it over to GY6 and it's in line 1. We also placed a car that was from GY09 into A18 and it's line 1. The tank car we pulled out of A19 has been moved over to A18 and it's in line position number 2. And then the gondola of rail we pulled out of GY09 has been moved over to GY12 and it's in position 3. So I hope this helped you out, helped you to understand how an industry work order works, and hope you enjoyed it. So until next time, I'm Tim Garland, and thanks for watching the Seaboard Central, and happy model railroading, everyone.